Dr. D. Prem Anand. He has pursued his Masters, his MPhil and PhD in Physics from Loyola College, Madras University. He has been actively doing research since 2004. His area of specialization is crystal growth and its characterizations, nanomaterials and polymers which are used in solid-state batteries. He is guiding 6 more research scholars in the field of crystal growth, nanoscience and polymer science. He has published more than 75 research papers and he currently works as a professor of physics at St. Xavier's College, Palayamkotte, Tamil Nadu.
Welcome to UGC lecture series in physics for BSc Physics Honours. In this lecture series, we are going to discuss some of the basic concepts pertaining to second law of thermodynamics. The contents of second law of thermodynamics is divided into the following sections: reversible process, second law of thermodynamics, heat engine, Carnot cycle, refrigerator and its efficiency. Now, let us discuss our attention on what is a reversible process. From the thermodynamical point of view, a reversible process is one in which an infinitesimally small change in the external conditions will result in all the changes taking place in the direct process, but exactly repeated in the reverse order and in the opposite sense. It is also a process should take place at an extremely slow rate. In a reversible cycle, there should not be any loss of heat due to friction in radiation. Moreover, in this process, the initial conditions of the working substance can be obtained. In order to understand further about this reversible process, let us consider a cylinder containing a gas at a certain pressure and temperature. Let P be the pressure and let T be the temperature. Let us suppose that the cylinder is fitted with a frictionless piston. If the pressure is decreased, the gas expands slowly and maintains a constant temperature. Such a kind of a process is known as an isothermal process. The energy required for this expansion is continuously drawn from the source, that is the surroundings. If the pressure on the piston is increased, the gas contracts slowly and maintains constant temperature for an isothermal process. The energy liberated during compression is given to the surroundings or to the sink. This is also true for an adiabatic process if provided the process take place infinitely slowly. The process will not be reversible if there is any loss of heat due to friction, radiation or conduction. If the changes takes place rapidly, the process will not be reversible. The energy used in overcoming friction cannot be retracted. And also, the conditions of reversibility for any heat engine or process can be stated as follows: the pressure and temperature of the working substance must not differ appreciably from those of the surroundings at any state of the cycle of operation. All the process taking place in the cycle of operation must be infinitely slow. The working parts of the engine must be completely free from friction. And also, there should not be any loss of energy due to conduction or radiation during the cycle of operation. It should be remembered that the complete reversible process or cycle of operation is only an ideal case. In an actual process, there is always a loss of heat due to friction, conduction or radiation. The temperature and pressure of the working substance differ appreciably from those of the surroundings. Now, what is the second law of thermodynamics? A heat engine is chiefly concerned with the conversion of heat energy into mechanical work. Similarly, a refrigerator is a device to cool a certain place below the temperature of its surroundings. The first law of thermodynamics is a qualitative statement which does not prelude the possibility of the existence of either a heat engine or a refrigerator. Moreover, the first law does not contradict the existence of 100% efficiency heat engine or a self-acting refrigerator. In a practice, these two are not attainable. These phenomena are recognized, and this lead to the formulation of law governing these two devices, and this law is called the second law of thermodynamics. A new term, reservoir, is used to explain the second law. A reservoir is a device having infinite thermal capacity and which can absorb, retain or reject unlimited quantity of heat without any change in its temperature. Therefore, combining all this, Kelvin and Planck made a statement of the second law. The second law of thermodynamics is follows, that is Kelvin-Planck statement. It is impossible to get a continuous supply of work from a body or an engine which can transfer heat with a single heat reservoir, and this is a negative statement. According to the statement, a single reservoir at a single temperature cannot continuously transfer heat into the work. It means that there should be two reservoirs for any heat engine. One reservoir, which is called the source, is taken at a higher temperature, and the other reservoir, called the sink, is taken at a lower temperature. According to the statement, 0 degree absolute temperature is not attainable because no heat is rejected to the sink at 0 degree Kelvin. If an engine works between any temperature higher than 0 degree Kelvin, it means that it uses a single reservoir, which contradicts Kelvin's Planck statement of the second law. Similarly, an engine can be 100% efficient. In a heat engine, the engine draws heat from the source, and after doing some external work, it rejects the remaining heat to the sink. Similarly, the source and sink are of infinite thermal capacity, and they maintain a constant temperature. This law of thermodynamics is divided into two parts, that is the first part and the second part. The first part is a Kelvin statement. According to Kelvin, the second law can also be stated as follows. It is impossible to get a continuous supply of work from a body by cooling it to a temperature lower than that of its surroundings. In a heat engine, the working substance does some work and rejects the remaining heat to the sink. The temperature of the source must be higher than the surroundings, and the engine will not work when the temperatures of the source and the sink are the same. Let us take the case of a steam engine. The steam, which is a working substance, is at higher pressure, is introduced into the cylinder of the engine. Therefore, whenever a steam is introduced in the engine, steam expands and it does some work. That work is external work. Therefore, the contents remaining behind after doing work are rejected to the surroundings. The temperature of the working substance rejected to the surroundings is higher than the temperature of the surroundings. If this working substance rejected by the first engine issued in another engine, what will it do? It can do work, and the temperature of the working substance will decrease rapidly, or the temperature of the working substance will fall further. It means that the working substance can do work only if its temperature is higher than that of the surroundings. The second part is known as a Clausius statement. This is also a form of second law of thermodynamics. According to Clausius, it is impossible to make heat flow from a body at a lower temperature to a body at a higher temperature without doing any external work on the working substance. This part is applicable in the case of ice plants and refrigerators. Heat itself cannot flow from a body at a lower temperature to a body at a higher temperature, but it is possible if some external work is done on the working substance. Let us take the case of an ammonia ice plant. Ammonia is the working substance, and liquid ammonia at low pressure takes heat from the brine solution in the brine tank, and it is converted to low pressure vapor. Therefore, what will happen during this process? In this process, external work is done to compress the ammonia vapors to high pressure. This ammonia at high pressure is passed through coils over which water at room temperature is poured. Ammonia vapor gives heat to water at room temperature and gets itself converted into liquid again. This high pressure liquid ammonia is throttled to low pressure liquid ammonia. In this process, or in the whole process of ammonia, the working substance takes heat from the brine solution which is at a lower temperature and gives heat to water at room temperature which is at a higher temperature. This is possible only due to the external work done on ammonia by the piston in compressing it. The only work of electricity in the ammonia ice plant is to move the piston to do external work on the ammonia. If the external work is not done, no ice plant or refrigerator will work. Hence, it is possible to make heat flow from a body at a lower temperature to a body at a higher temperature by doing external work on the working substance. Thus, the second law of thermodynamics plays an important part for practical devices, especially in the case of heat engines and refrigerators. The first law of thermodynamics only gives the relation between the work done and the heat produced, but whereas the second law of thermodynamics gives the condition under which heat can be converted into work. Now, let us discuss another topic which is known as a heat engine. Heat engine can be broadly classified into various types, that is an internal combustion engine or external combustion engine. Both the engines fall under this group, a heat engine. Heat engine is a device which converts heat into mechanical work. The main parts of the heat engine are sink, working substance and the source. Or to put it in a proper way, the heat engine has three devices: the source, sink and the working substance. To put it compactly, an heat engine is a device that absorbs heat and uses it to do useful work on the surroundings when operating in a cycle. Sources of heat include the combustion of coal, the combustion of petroleum or carbohydrates and nuclear reaction. What is a working substance? The matter inside the heat engine that undergoes addition or rejection of heat that does work on the surroundings is known as a working substance. Examples of working substance include air and water vapor or steam. In a cycle, the working substance is in the same thermodynamic state at end as at the start. And this is a schematic diagram of a heat engine. The heat engine has three parts: as I have said already, source, sink and the working substance. In this graphical representation of a heat engine, the source of heat is a hot body, which the heat is liberated from the hot body, and whereas the cold body absorbs the heat. The letter E represents the engine. Q1 is the quantity of heat given by the hot body, and Q2 is the quantity of heat given out by the cold body, and W is known as the quantity of work done. Each and every engine has an efficiency. The efficiency is normally denoted by the symbol eta. Eta is nothing but it is the ratio of work out to the heat in, where eta is equal to W by Q1, where W is called the work done and Q is the quantity of heat supplied. According to the first law of thermodynamics, or applying the first law of thermodynamics, we can write delta U, where delta U is known as the internal energy of the system. It is nothing but the difference of initial internal energy and final internal energy and the work done. Mathematically, we can write delta U is equal to Q1 minus Q2 minus W. But whereas in the cycle, since the process, the heat engine process is a cyclic process, the internal energy is 0. Therefore, substituting the value of internal energy to be 0 in this equation, we get W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. But we know that eta is equal to W by Q1. Therefore, the value of W is nothing but it is Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q1, that is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. Therefore, the efficiency of a heat engine is given by the formula eta is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So, where Q1 is at the denominator and Q2 is at the numerator, therefore, eta will be maximum when Q2 is minimum. And this is a schematic diagram of a Carnot cycle. What is a Carnot cycle? A Carnot cycle is a special form of an heat engine, or it is an ideal heat engine which converts heat into mechanical work. And this Carnot cycle is a reversible process. The Carnot cycle can be divided into two steps, that is, or two ways. One is a hot reservoir which is maintained at a temperature T1. Now, other is a cold reservoir maintained at a temperature T2. Normally, T1 is at the higher temperature and T2 is at the higher temperature. Therefore, from the hot reservoir, a quantity of heat Q1 is given. Similarly, when Q1 is given from the hot reservoir to the Carnot engine, some quantity of work done is W. And therefore, since the work is done on the system, some amount of heat Q2 is liberated from the Carnot cycle and it is transferred to the cold reservoir which is at a temperature T2. So, as I have said, this Carnot cycle is a reversible process. Therefore, we can represent this Carnot cycle by a pressure volume graphical diagram, where we take volume along the x axis and pressure along the y axis. And if we draw this Carnot cycle graphical picture, we get this picture like this. This is the first step. The Carnot cycle is divided into 4 parts. This part is the first part, and this part is called an isothermal process, where the point here is A and this point is B. Therefore, the pressure and the volume at this point A is P1 V1 and the pressure and the volume at this point B is P2 V2. Therefore, what I am trying to do is I am trying to decrease this pressure. So, when I decrease this pressure, what happens to the volume? The volume gets increased. Therefore, this process is called an isothermal process, and where P is called the pressure and nRT is the gas equation, where R is called the Rydberg gas constant and T is the temperature and V is the volume of this cycle. Actually, this first cycle represents the heat engine is being placed on the top of the working substance at a temperature T1, and these are the 2 points, point A and point B on the pressure volume graph, where this graph or this line is a process, an isothermal process, where you decrease the pressure, the volume gets increased, and Q1 is the heat given to the system, and this Q at the point B, Q is value of Q is 0, and this P is constant divided by V power gamma. Therefore, from B to C, this process is known as an adiabatic process. For an adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0. Therefore, pressure at this point B is P2 and volume is V2. Similarly, at point C, pressure is P3 and volume is V3, and this from B to C, this process is called an adiabatic process. So, in this adiabatic process, what I am trying to do is that I am once again decreasing the pressure, therefore, the volume gets increased. The second part of the graph BC is you should place the engine on the insulated stand or insulated top of the stand, and third process is also an isothermal process. Again, what I am trying to do is increase this pressure, therefore, what happens to the volume? The volume gets decreased. Therefore, this first plot is an isothermal process, this plot is an adiabatic process, and this is an isothermal process. Therefore, the graphical representation for pressure in this value is given by P is equal to nR into T2 divided by V, where R is called the Rydberg gas constant, P is the pressure and V is the volume, and Q2 is the heat given out, and D is a point on the adiabatic curve. And from A to D, this process is called again an isothermal process. In this isothermal process, I am trying to increase the pressure, therefore, the volume gets reduced. Therefore, the Carnot cycle can be divided into 4 parts. The first part is A to B is an isothermal process, B to C is an adiabatic process, C to D is an isothermal process, and from D to A is an isothermal process. And these are the various values of the heat. For an isothermal process, the value of quantity of heat is given out, and for an adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0. Similarly, for isothermal process, heat is given out, and for an adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0. And this is called the work diagram for a Carnot cycle. Therefore, this represents the total work diagram for a Carnot cycle, and let us discuss briefly the Carnot cycle. From A to B, this is the graph. From A to B, the process is isothermal, as I have already said. Therefore, this internal energy is 0 and Q is equal to minus W. Therefore, Q1 is equal to, it is integral, you can substitute the limits P dV, and when you integrate this, you get this equation. Q1 is equal to nR T1 into log Vb by Va, which is a positive quantity. Let us again go to the diagram from B to C. This is B to C. This process is an adiabatic process. Therefore, for an adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0, and the important condition is Tv power gamma minus 1 is a constant. Therefore, for substituting two temperatures at T1 and T2, we can write T1 into Vb gamma minus 1, it is equal to T2 into Vc gamma power minus 1. Therefore, dividing this equation T1 divided by T2, we get Vc divided by Vb power gamma minus 1. Let us go for the graph from C to D, and this is from C to D. This C to D is once again an isothermal process, and therefore, U is equal to 0 and Q is equal to minus W as in the first case. Therefore, Q is equal to nRT2 into log Vd by Vc, or when you invert this, we can write minus of nRT2 into log of Vc by Vd, which is a negative quantity. And similarly, D to A, it is an adiabatic quantity. So, since it is an adiabatic quantity, Q is equal to 0, so that Tv power gamma minus 1 is a constant. Therefore, again once again writing down the expression, we can write T2 into Vd power gamma minus 1 is equal to T1 into Va power gamma minus 1. So, using this equation, dividing T2 by T1 or T1 by T2, we get Vd divided by Va power gamma minus 1. Therefore, from all this we see that T1 by T2 is equal to Vc divided by Vb power gamma minus 1, that is equal to Vd divided by Va gamma power minus 1, which means that we can cancel gamma minus 1, which is both on the left hand side and right hand side. We can cancel this term, which becomes Vc by Vd is equal to Vb by Va. Now, also Q1 by Q2 is equal to, it is nRT1 into log Vb by Va divided by nRT2 into log Vc by Vd, that is equal to T1 into log Vb by Va divided by T2 into log of Vc by Vd. Since the volumes are equal, we can write Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. Therefore, this is an important result. Therefore, temperature can be defined on the absolute Kelvin scale in terms of heat flows in a Carnot cycle. And what is special about a Carnot cycle? The first point is heat is transferred to and fro only from two reservoirs at fixed temperatures, where T1 and T2 not at variety of temperatures. Similarly, heat is transferred to from only two reservoirs at fixed temperatures, T1 and T2 not at a variety of temperatures. Similarly, heat transfer is the most efficient possible because the temperature of the working substance equals the temperature of the reservoir, and no heat is wasted in flowing from hot to cold. So, within this, what's special about a Carnot cycle? Recall that for any cycle, the efficiency of heat engine is eta is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. If it is at different temperatures, eta is equal to 1 minus T2 by T1, where T1 and T2 are the temperatures of the hot and cold reservoirs, where T2 is greater than 0 and Hc is always less than 1. What is Kelvin-Planck's statement of the second law of thermodynamics? It is impossible to construct a device that operating in a cycle will produce no other effect than the extraction of heat from a single body on the performance of an equal amount of work, or a cyclical engine cannot convert heat from a single body completely into work, and some heat must be rejected at a lower temperature. Thus, the efficiency is less than 1. And this is a schematic diagram for a heat engine, where we have a source of heat as a hot body, and which cold body absorbs this heat, and therefore, W is equal to, it is minus Q1. And this process, since W is equal to minus Q1 and Q2 is equal to 0, this kind of heat engine does not exist. Therefore, this is the possibility for an heat engine where Q1 is equal to 0 and Q2 is equal to W, and Q1 and Q2 are the heat given and liberated, and this is the possible case for an heat engine. Examples are friction creating heat, isothermal compression of ideal gas, and this is the schematic diagram for a refrigerator efficiency. Carnot engine is a reversible engine. At one point it acts as a heat engine, and at the other it acts as a refrigerator. When it acts as a heat engine, it absorbs some quantity of heat and rejects a quantity of heat to the system. Similarly, when it works as a refrigerator, the body is at a lower temperature to a higher temperature with an external work done, and this functions as a refrigerator. Therefore, the efficiency of a refrigerator is eta is equal to Q divided by W, or eta R is equal to heat out divided by work in, that is equal to Q2 divided by W, where W is the work done. So, this is the refrigerator efficiency formula. Therefore, first law tells that Q2 plus W minus Q1 is equal to 0. Therefore, we can write W is equal to Q1 minus Q2, and eta R is equal to Q2 divided by Q1 minus Q2. For a Carnot refrigerator, the efficiency is, it is 1 by eta is equal to T1 minus T2 divided by T2, or eta of R C is equal to theta T2 divided by T1 minus T2. The efficiency is usually greater than 1. The smaller the T difference, the more efficient is this refrigerator. Now, let us recollect what you have learned so far in this lecture. We have learned about this reversible process and Kelvin and Clausius statement definition of second law of thermodynamics, about heat engine, what are the possibilities of heat engine, and what is the Carnot cycle, what are all the graphical representation of a Carnot cycle, what are its interpretation, refrigerator and its efficiency. Questions after the end of this lecture: state Kelvin statement of second law of thermodynamics, define Clausius statement of second law of thermodynamics, what is a reversible process, define Kelvin Planck statement of second law of thermodynamics. Thank you.